Everyone, welcome back to a new post today. And we all know that Atmanirbharta or self-reliance has been a cornerstone of a manufacturing policy. We have seen many sectors of the economy becoming self-reliant over a period of time, not totally, but at least in a maximum way. And recently, we've seen even the defense exports also rising up to almost 21,000 crore, and that can be attributed to one of the policies of Atmanirbharta or self-reliance, that is increasing the manufacturing capability of defense at home. One such manufacturing sector with regard to where we are lacking behind and are still very much dependent on imports, but we have a major goal of achieving a target with regard to the sector, and it is none other than the solar power energy or the renewable energy sector. So we have a target of achieving like 450 gigawatt of solar power by 2030, just 6 years away. But our manufacturing capacity to meet the technicalities or the instruments that are needed to produce the solar power is very less, and we are still very much dependent on the imports from China. Now, to curb the imports and to increase the self-reliance or the Atmanirbharta in solar power module manufacturing and solar cell manufacturing, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy Resources has brought up an order which is called as the Solar Photovoltaic Modules Requirement for Compulsory Registration Order of 2019. Let's have a quick review and few insight about what exactly this order is, where do we stand with regard to imports and production of solar power modules or solar power cells, and why is this order actually important. So to increase self-reliance, as I told you, in the solar module manufacturing, which is needed to generate solar power, along with the manufacturing of solar cells, along with reduction in the imports, the center has brought out these rules called as the Approved Models Manufacturers of Solar Photovoltaic Modules Requirements for Compulsory Registration Order. Now the phrase compulsory registration is none other than the registration of the local manufacturers of these solar power modules and also the solar cells. So to incentivize the solar module industry, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has brought out this order which says that it requires the makers of the solar modules in India to voluntarily submit to an inspection of the manufacturing facilities by an institute named as the National Institute of Solar Energy, which is a Ministry of New and Renewable Energy affiliated body. Now, being on the list of the approved manufacturing facility, these companies will get a legitimate manufacturer, will be the legitimate manufacturer of solar panels, and also they can import and assemble as well. Now, this became necessary because India wanted to identify who exactly are its indigenous manufacturers, because though we say that we have indigenization in solar power module manufacturing and solar cells, we still import a lot of them from China and we are import dependent. That means there is a big mismatch between the demand and the supply. So this mismatch between the demand and the supply is affecting the goals of solar power at home, and also the need for the technology that goes into this are coming through imports. So this is definitely risky for India. So the modules, what exactly are these modules? Now, modules are nothing but multiple solar power panels joined together. These solar panels are made up of solar cells. Now, despite being among the top manufacturers of the world and also a commitment to scale up our solar power installation fourfold by 2030, local production of these cells and modules is very much lower than the demand that is compared. India also has a very limited capacity to make the raw material for these cells, which are the ingots and the wafers, and is still dependent on these cells even. So not only dependent on solar modules, but also the raw material which is needed for making the cell, and definitely this calls for a working on the local production of this. So the creation of such a list now of the local manufacturers aims to restrict its imports from China, which controls almost 80% of the global supply, and already we are not very good in our diplomatic relations with China as well, and it can somewhere import the imports of these in a long term. So India has ambitious plans for solar power manufacturing, and if you take this like 500 gigawatt by 2030, this would mean like 280 gigawatt of solar power per year, or at least 40 gigawatt of solar capacity held annually until 2030. Now, in the last 5 years, years, we have barely crossed 13 gigawatt, though the government claimed that the COVID-19 has affected this trajectory, and the difficulty is meeting the targets is because of the solar power panels and the cells for which India is import dependent. Now, to give a boost to the solar power generation, Prime Minister has already launched many schemes like either 1 crore rooftop solar power energy scheme, you have PM Kusum, you have Surya Ghar, Muft Bijli Yojana, etc. So the major advantage now on being on this list is what? So what will the advantage of the local manufacturers be? Now once they are on this list, they will be eligible to go in for tenders issued by the government for flagship energy programs of the government, not only of the central government, then they'll be eligible even in the state governments as well. And this includes many schemes like, as I just told you, PM Surya Ghar Bijli Yojana, your PM Kusum, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Uttam Maha Abhiyan, and many other schemes as well. The government has also mooted a 24,000 crore scheme called as Production Link Incentive Scheme that is treated at incentivizing the domestic manufacturing of solar panels and their components. Now, eligibility for this scheme too requires one to be a local manufacturer. So unless you're a local manufacturer, you cannot become eligible for the PLI scheme, which is almost a 24,000 crore handheld scheme by the government of India. So far, 14 companies, let me tell you, have become eligible for incentives to manufacture solar power modules worth only 48 gigawatt, and a lot more needs to be done. Therefore, we need to identify more local manufacturers, and more local manufacturers need to come voluntarily to identify or to list themselves so that they can be eligible for the schemes and the tenders towards the government of India and the states, and also can be incentivized under the PLI scheme. So are we manufacturing an adequate capacity? As I told you, no, we are not. We are still import dependent. And are we the first to reduce imports from China? For that, even no, we are not the first. So last year, India was fortunate in the solar business because many countries cut down on the import dependence from China. India could boost up its exports for solar power modules and also cells. Now, China, which supplies 80% of the solar components, to curbs from orders in the US on the ground that it relied on forced, that is the mechanisms used in production of these solar modules and the cells. So the US said it used forced labor on the Uyghur Muslims of the Xinjiang region province. Europe also scaled back its imports from China, and a beneficiary was India, where it got a boost because we exported almost $1 billion worth of models in just 6 months in 2023 and 24. Therefore, the report suggests that US might recently the report have suggested US might roll back these duties from China and could again increase its imports from China. So therefore, it's a risky business altogether for India, and we have to become self-reliant at home. So rather than being import dependent, we need to push up our local manufacturing of solar power modules and cells. And it is estimated that at least half of India's solar modules are imported, more than half are imported from China, and there is a big demand and supply mismatch. The government has claimed that the beginning of this year there will be a significant rise in manufacturing capacity, and one of the reasons how the government is planning to do it is with this order of 2019. While the list of the certified manufacturers on the list has grown to 82, there is yet no list of such manufacturers for solar cells. So we are lagging back in solar cells very much, and implying that we are still far away from achieving a total self-reliance or Atmanirbharta in solar power module manufacturing and also solar cells manufacturing, that is a local homegrown industry to provide the equipment needed for producing the solar power at home and achieving our goal of 500 gigawatt by 2030. So a lot will be dependent on the manufacturing capability of these equipments that are needed for solar power generation. I hope this explanation or the review, few insights into this list was really helpful to you all. If you did, please do like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to comment at the end of the video, and I shall see you in my next post. Until then, it's very happy learning.